Look at that snazzy camera work right there. Good morning, everybody. I'm Bear with BearIndependent.com, also founder and CEO of Refuge Medical. So, hi. We're going to do the brief today. We're talking about Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., the President of the United States of America, asterisk, his new big vaccine push. So this is probably going to be one of those videos that gets demonetized and or shut down midstream. So if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. You're going to need this information to navigate the screwy world ahead. And if you're not new here, you know what to do. Share this show with people that you love. All right, 12 September 22. Finally, more and more companies are quietly ending their requirements for employees to be vaccinated against COVID-19. And by the way, for the YouTube algorithmic robots, I'm reading the news, okay? So I know that the algorithm is going to want to shut me down. Maybe we could just play nice today. Maybe we could, observe one of the two prime directives summarizes, don't be a Richard. How's that? Finally, more and more companies are quietly ending their requirements for employees to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Intel, Starbucks, Adidas, Cisco, and JP Morgan Chase and Goldman Sachs are among the companies who no longer require, but rather recommend that their employees be vaccinated. Multiple reasons for this have been offered for this gradual shift, including that testing and treatment have improved so greatly. But ultimately, it may simply come down to the market's desperate need for workers. Additionally, several medical companies have been dragged into court over the mandates they imposed, which has helped to set a precedent to encourage employers to think twice, which is good, in my opinion. We're supposed to have freedom here in the United States of America. It's interesting how many people were pro-choice, but also pro-vaccine mandate. That's an ideological non-starter for me for a lot of reasons. At the most basic level, you don't get to tell me what I can and can't put inside of my body. There's been a major hullabaloo over this for the last several years, as there should be. People should be revolting over this. But unfortunately, the silent majority was more or less silent on this as well. Now, there were, a lot of strongly worded Instagram posts and Facebook memes over this, but actual action, not so much. It's interesting also that the reason stated has to do with the potential for garnering new hires. That's an economic indicator right there. We know that this COVID-19 thing has been directly tied to the World Economic Forum's Great Reset. Although I haven't read it yet, but I'm subscribed to their newsletter, and the headline of their most recent newsletter was The Great Regret. I wonder what they're getting at with there. But the Great Reset's deeply economic, and COVID-19 was an economic weapon used to pacify people. I think it was also a psychological operation to see how far people are willing to go to toe the line. And a lot of people were against that, myself included, still am against that. I don't think you can mandate anybody do anything with their medical treatment. Air quote, medical treatment. Let's see. The White House has recently published a statement emphasizing the Biden administration's commitment to battling the pandemic. I just gotta say, are we actually still in a pandemic? It didn't feel like it when we were in the middle of it a couple years ago. It certainly doesn't feel like it now. Remember all those reports about how they're digging mass graves in New York City and there's refrigerated trucks filled with bodies because the morgue just can't keep up and blah, blah, blah. I don't see any of that now. Not even an inkling of that now. And so I wonder why the need to perpetuate this pandemic narrative, just doubling down on their own BS, maybe. Some would say, well, there's more coming, Bear. Maybe, we'll see. The White House has recently published a statement emphasizing the Biden administration's commitment to battling the pandemic, saying, quote, "As we head into the fall, we know that there is a potential for an increase in infections, in part due to increased waning of immunity from vaccines." What? I thought they were like forever. Increased waning of immunity from vaccines? I thought they're perfect, they're beautiful, tremendous. Believe it. Everybody tells me. Operation Warp Speed, the best. Believe it. Melania. I thought they were, like, these were the second coming of Christ, these vaccines. Like, they were the best thing ever, right? Better than sliced bread. Nope. As we head into the fall, we know that there's a potential for an increase in infections, in part due to increased waning of immunity from vaccines and prior infection. Additionally, as the weather gets colder and people spend more time indoors, contagious viruses like COVID-19 can spread more easily. And, as we saw last fall with the emergence of Omicron, we must continue to stay prepared for the possibility of a potential new variant of concern. End quote. So all these are potentials. It's damn near a nationwide vaccine program built on a straw man argument here. It's a maybe. It could be pretty bad. One could easily argue perhaps we should spend our time focusing on things that are rather than what might be. If we're going to allocate billions, if not trillions of dollars towards solving problems, let's maybe focus on things that are real rather than things that could be. Oh no, another virus. Also, people are going to be spending more time indoors because winter's coming. Yeah, that's unfortunately the natural state of man. I could tell you that I spend most of my time outside every day. I'm pretty healthy. I just had my yearly physical. A+, man, batting 1,000. Doesn't mean I don't get the occasional sniffles every now and then, but human beings were designed by Yah and put into a garden. Man was created in the wilderness and then brought into a garden, and then Hava, Eve, was created in a garden. Neither of those places are in a condominium or a living room or an office. Like, you're supposed to be outside. It's good for you. You know, this whole, COVID and Omicron thing, how many people were talking about vitamin D deficiencies? Sunlight. Go stand in the sunlight, to say nothing of the psychological effect that has on your body, the production of hormones and positive chemicals in your body. Like, go get some sunshine on you. Get a tan. Breathe real air. Well, you don't understand, Bear. I live in Philadelphia and there is no air. Move. Go somewhere else. Go for a hike. Go camping on a 3-day weekend. Go do something. Get outside. You were not meant to live under fluorescent lights. You are not a grow operation by the system. Now, they might treat you like that, but that's not what you were made to be. That's not how you were made to exist. Go outside. It's also interesting that they're saying that there's a fall off here in efficacy of immunity from both the vaccine and natural immunity, because recently it was admitted by the whatever agency, NIAID, that Fauci was the head of, that there's been no determinable difference, no tangible difference between people who gained immunity through the vaccine and people who gained natural immunity. None. Which is something that some of us have been saying for years. I have an immune system. It works. I was created to have an immune system because it works. And I would rather depend upon the fact that I was fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of my creator by loving all-powerful hands, than some Dr. Mengele scientist somewhere whipped up some concoction in a lab and was like, hey, we know we might have accidentally released this thing on the globe, or intentionally. We might have caused the problem, but don't worry, we also have the solution. Just submit to this experimental medication and we'll see how things go for you. It's also annoying how many millions of people lost their jobs because they refused to do this. Untold millions, if not tens of millions of people either left the workforce altogether or were removed from the workforce forcibly by their employers because they refused to do this thing. And now all of a sudden, those requirements for vaccination are being eased by many companies because they can't find any workers. If there's an attorney anywhere within the sound of my voice that has a pair of balls that are bigger than marbles, where's the class action lawsuits? Right? Because we all love to bitch about the system. Oh, the system. Oh, it's all corrupt. Yeah, it's a mess, dude. It's a hot mess. But you know what? You find yourself a good Jewish bulldog attorney, just like everybody else, and use the system to your advantage as well. Right? Jocko talks about this. What if you're in a bad system? What do? Well, if you leave the bad system, you can no longer exert any influence over it at all. And it's tough for some of us who have come out of Her My People. We're out here in the wilderness. I don't want to play in the system. I've left it to the best of my ability. Yet, if I can use the system to further my cause from time to time, why wouldn't I? They do. The big they do. So where's the class action lawsuits here? Where's the $1 trillion settlements?
Well, that's where everything gets messed up. There's no balance. When people are unhealthy, they're not balanced in their diet. When people aren't going outside, they aren't sterilizing and purifying themselves with the natural sun. When people are forced to get vaccines, they're putting their system to one end of the scale, so then the counteraction goes completely haywire in the other direction. You're not good with your finances, you're spending all your money, you're unbalanced, so then when shit hits the fan, you're lost out there in the wilderness with nothing.
What about simple stuff like we talked about breathing real air, right? Sunshine, what you eat, right? Like diet, like what do you eat? If you eat trash all day and you're like, I don't know why, I feel terrible. I do. You eat trash all day. Did you PT today? Did you get your heart rate up? Are you oxygenating your blood? How did you sleep last night? Like, and by the way, PT and sleep are free.
Yep.
Sunshine is free. Go outside, right?
Take a deep breath. There's so many people that I come in contact with that are only shallow breathers. They take a deep breath, they'll get dizzy and fall over.
So lots of people were removed from the workforce because of these mandates, and now these restrictions are being eased because they, corporate America can't find people to work for them. I would be all over this. If I was an attorney, I'd be like, this is perfect. Perfect. Mind you, they're going to get 30% of the settlement, right? So good, go for $1 trillion. 300 billion be a nice payday. Let's see, back to the brief. And as continuing in the quote, as we saw last fall with the emergence of Omicron, we must continue to stay prepared for the possibility of a potential new variant of concern. The very end quote. The very first point of the Biden administration's plan included, quote, free and easy access to new, updated COVID-19 vaccinations. This includes helping people get the flu shot and a COVID shot in the same visit. Now, a couple of things there. First of all, free and easy access. What that means, in my opinion, is that these tens of millions of doses of vaccine that are sitting on shelves that Big Pharma has produced, and I know people are probably furiously typing in the comments, you can't sue Big Pharma. Maybe not in criminal court. How about civil court, right? Damages. You can definitely quantify damages, but I digress. And you can't. Try harder. Try harder. There are tens of millions of doses of vaccine that are sitting on shelves because nobody wants them. So free and easy access from the government to this vaccine means that in my mind, collusion, yet again, between these pharmaceutical companies and the government which is going to pay for these vaccines so that you can get them for free. Government doesn't produce anything. The government's budget comes out of your paycheck. If you had to sit down and write a check to the government every time you got paid for your taxes, people would be revolting today. And I don't want to jump in that rabbit hole, but I'm not a big fan of my taxpayer dollars being used in that way. Additionally, so we're going to get the flu shot and the COVID shot at the same time now. What's that going to do to adverse effects from immunization? Probably going to spike them, because there's people who get jacked up. It's statistically low, but you spread that statistical load, that anomaly, over millions, tens of millions of people, you still end up with thousands, if not tens of thousands of vaccine injuries. You spread that from the flu shot over the same population that's getting these new COVID vaccines on the same day, at the same time. Do we have any data on what that's going to look like? How many vaccine injuries is that going to cause? White House officials are certainly towing the line, urging people to get their COVID vaccine as soon as possible and to get it simultaneously with the flu shot, even though it's really too early to get a flu shot. Influenza vaccinations erode over time, so if they're administered too early, they essentially lose overall effectiveness. This last year, flu season didn't reach its peak until February. Even the CDC advises, quote, September and October are generally good times to be vaccinated against flu. Ideally, everyone should be vaccinated by the end of October. Ideally, huh? The main reason for this dual jab push, participation. According to a professor of health behavior at the University of North Carolina, Noel Brewer, the complicated booster rules and requirements have led people to just tuning out. Pairing the two shots together, despite the likely lowered effectiveness for disease protection, may just be all about getting people to take the COVID shot in the first place. So while companies may be loosening the noose, the coordinated public push for participation has in no way abated. In fact, it is likely here to stay. The last point of the Biden administration plan reads, quote, planning to eventually transition procurement and distribution of COVID-19 vaccines, tests, and treatments to the commercial market. Also in a recent statement, President Joe Biden said, quote, we begin a new phase in our COVID-19 response. We are launching a new vaccine, our first in almost 2 years, with a new approach. For most Americans, that means one COVID-19 shot once a year, each fall, end quote. Welcome to the new normal.
It's ridiculous. They're just giving people shots for their fluorescent light syndrome.
Yeah. It's immunodeficiency issue.
Yep. With all of the high fructose corn syrup and all the other crap that they're putting in their system.
Look at the comorbidities for COVID.
Yeah.
Pre-existing heart conditions, pre-existing obesity. Okay, well, what does that come from? Poor diet, lack of PT. Go outside. Now, some people, and my position on this has shifted in the last couple of years. Some people get COVID and legitimately get really, really sick. I've had it a couple of times, at least according to the PCR test, I've had it a couple of times. And one time, it was nothing. It was like 3 days of the sniffles, a little bit of body aches. It was like mild flu. Another time, it was pretty bad. Like I didn't feel great. But I also didn't die. Because even though I have another 50 pounds to lose in order for me to be happy with myself, and I'm not the most fit guy out there, I do ruck like 6 days a week. I work on the homestead. I go outside. I breathe the fresh air. I let the sun shine on my face. And I made it through just fine. And so if you're not starting off on a good foot with any real disease, it has the potential to kill you. How many people have died from the flu? You look at comorbidities with flu, it's usually the elderly, people with pre-existing heart conditions, pre-existing lung conditions, and morbid obesity. You can, generally speaking, fix those things, and you should. Not just because of COVID or Omicron or whatever the new variant's going to be called to scare the piss out of people, but also because it increases your quality of life and increases your longevity. If the system collapses, you're going to want to be strong. You're going to want to be fit. You don't want to be playing catch up. It also, last thought, gives a potential cover for action here, a screen, by creating the expectation now that there's going to be potentially a bad COVID season when jobless numbers continue to grow, as the economy continues to fail, as poor leadership continues to affect itself in the White House. They have the same old excuse, man, it's COVID, it's COVID, it's COVID. Is it? Where are the semis full of bodies? Like, where are they at?
The numbers don't add up.
They're not there. If anything, it's people now who are falling by the wayside, who are passing away from adverse effects from taking the vaccine in the first place.
I thought you were going to go into monkeypox.
No, monkeypox is only an issue if you are committing abominations.
Oh, being a Fauci.
Being a Fauci. If you're a dude laying with another dude, you have a high likelihood. This is a fact. This is not my opinion on it. This is a fact. If you are engaging in homosexual activity, you have an exponentially higher chance of catching monkeypox. If you're not, you have an exponentially low chance of catching monkeypox. Some might call it a plague upon the unrighteous. I don't know. I don't care. I'm really not worried about it because based upon the data, I don't need to be worried about it. How dare you say that, Bear? That's inconsiderate. No, those are the facts. So that's the brief for today. If you're on Patreon, you have the relevant links and the write-up. If you're not on Patreon, you don't. Although I do appreciate you, even if you're not on Patreon. I know times are getting tough for a lot of people out there. And so if you got $5 a month, you can come join us on Patreon. It is the best $5 you can spend on the internet per month. And there's a lot of value over there. In fact, Lootbox just dropped. The Lootbox entry video dropped this morning on Patreon. Tomorrow on YouTube, I will be showing you what's in the Lootbox. It's about an $1,100 retail value. Significant. So if you're on Patreon, make sure you're getting your comment in on the entry post this morning and follow the rules. Watch the video, follow the rules. Those that don't follow the rules will be automatically ejected from the possibility of winning the loot box. But you can check that out on Patreon. There's a link in every description of every live stream and video. And if you're one of those people that jumps off when it's time to talk about how to support the show, this is your cue. Beat feet, skedaddle, get out of here. Have a blessed day. Shalom. Now, for everybody else, I want to give a shout out to Moose Run Coffee Company. Moose is a brother of ours and another fine American small business. I mean, like small business, like operating out of a shed, currently small business. And he came up with a product that I think is really cool. It's 20 pounds of green coffee beans in Mylar, in a bucket, already ready to go for long-term food storage with a roaster that if like you're gonna want some coffee when the world ends, he already did all the work. It's in a bucket, it's ready to go. And if you want to get your hands on some of that, you can find it at bearindependent.com in the store there. And that's from Moose Run Coffee Company. And it's really good coffee. Now, and I'm the guy that's happy with like Folgers Instant because, hey, I got coffee, right? So this coffee is better than I am when it comes to my appreciation for coffee. But we're just trying to help a brother out, and it's really good coffee. So if you're looking for, if you got a hole in your preps when it comes to long-term caffeination, you can check that out at bearindependent.com. They're 5-gallon buckets filled with coffee beans, already sealed up, already ready to go. All the work's been done. You just pass your debit card through the machine, bucket of coffee shows up at your house. It's pretty cool. Additionally, it is National Preparedness Month. There's a really good promo going on at Refuge Medical right now. That promo will be changing the end of this week. So this is your opportunity. Everything is in stock at the store. The bare facts, the advanced rip-away kits, the small of the back kits, the adventure kits, the bare minimums, canine kits for your dogs, stomp bags and max and public access kits and OSHA compliant kits. They're all there. Everything's in stock, which is a feat in of itself, given the international supply chain issues right now. So good job, team at Refuge Medical. Everything's in stock. Our average fulfillment time right now, from the time you place an order to the time it ships, is 14 hours. People are receiving their stuff in about 3 days. It depends on where you live, but from the time you process your order to the time it shows up is about 3 days. Pretty badass. Your promo code is BearNation, gets you free shipping on everything in the store. And right now, if you spend $150 or more, you get a free cat tourniquet. Legitimate Gen 7 North American Rescue cat tourniquet. If you spend $300 or more, you get a legitimate North American Rescue bleeding control kit with a cat tourniquet, emergency trauma bandage, 2 packs of wound packing gauze, a Mylar blanket, 2 pairs of gloves, a set of shears, and a little trauma card. That's $300 or more. If you spend $400 or more, you get a wound care bucket for long-term wound treatment. The wound care bucket is designed to treat a wound. It's gauze, tape, gloves, disinfectant smashed inside a bucket, literally to the point of overflowing. If you take it apart, good luck putting it back together again. You should video yourself opening it so that you can put it back together in reverse, because it's like a game of Tetris to get everything in there. And it's designed to treat wounds for a minimum of 30 days, a grievous injury. It's another one of those preps, kind of the check the box concept. You get a couple of wound care buckets, put them in your long-term preps if you have a major wound. And people geek out on this. Well, what am I going to do when there's no hospital in SHTF? Be the hospital, right? Like if you get a major laceration, right? Good, get a surgical kit from Refuge Medical, stitch that bastard back together, and then it's really basic from there. Keep it clean, keep it dry, keep it covered until the body heals. And that's what the wound care bucket's designed to do. So all that stuff's going on at refugemedical.com. Thank you for supporting our American-made small businesses. 51 lives saved to date that we know of, which is absolutely awesome. Refuge Training. Man, the training guys just got done in Idaho. Well, which class? They just did a class in Idaho. I think they have another class coming up in Idaho. And then for this year, there's a couple more dates in Dallas and Waco. And so if you are in or around Texas, recommend you go to class to learn the fine art of how to not die. Refugetraining.com. There's not another training regimen like it on planet Earth for civilians to learn the March algorithm, stop the bleed protocol, CPR, AED, force on force, and scenario-based trainings. We've been told by no less than 4 steely-eyed Green Berets now, this is the best training that we know of for civilians. That's awesome. And it is not death by PowerPoint. It is not fluff. It is not superstar instructors, slapping their ego all over your face 24/7, 365. It is real training, and you really learn. And we've had 2 people who have attended training thus far who have saved people's lives with the knowledge and equipment that they gained from training. That's awesome. So it's good stuff. It's not an I love me, you should love me too kind of thing. It's really good training. And then lastly, Grindstone Ministries. Bless every one of y'all who supports us with what we do at Grindstone Ministries. For those that don't know, Grindstone is a construction ministry. We go around the country when there's natural disasters, and we help people put their lives back together after a hurricane, a flood, or a tornado, or what have you. We also are building Caleb House. Caleb House is a restoration facility for juvenile human trafficking survivors and victims of sex crimes. This is basically children who have been trafficked and serially raped. while we are currently in the process of building Caleb House, we've also necessarily, because of the convictions of our hearts and the opportunities that the Father has presented us, gotten into the rescue side as well. So we are engaged in both the rescue and the rehabilitation, the restoration of kids who have been trafficked and serially raped. And we've currently got a couple dozen of them. And we would not be able to do that without y'all. I am just amazed. Not a single dime of our operating capital, not one penny, has come from any organization or entity outside of the Bear Nation. It's all been y'all. It's not federal grants or state grants or private grants or private foundations, or it's none of that. It's y'all. And it's other people, amazingly, here in the preparedness community who have poured into us as well. You know, my brother Saw, telling people to support Grindstone. Bless you, brother. Thank you. Alaska Prepper. Thank you. Right? Like, there's Angry Prepper. Thank you. There's a lot of people in this greater community of preparedness that are pouring into Grindstone so that we can do what we do. And that's amazing to me. And I really, really appreciate it, because just when I think like, oh, well, that's it, we're dead in the water, we're done, can't go one step further, the Father's like, hey, that's cute. I wouldn't put you in this position, asshole, if I didn't have the provision, protection, and blessing ready for you to do what it is that I told you to do in the first place. And he does that through y'all. So thank you for equipping and empowering us to be the hands and feet, to the best of our ability, of the Most High. Because, man, it's a mess out there, right? Like, when we're having to rescue 1-year-olds, well, there's a Torah for that, right? Forsake not the widow and the orphan. And it's gnarly out there. And so I actually lean on y'all a lot for strength. Because it's ugly, man. It's ugly. And people say all the time, it's like, man, somebody should do something about that. Yeah. You're somebody. I'm somebody. We are. So, thank you. You know, and a lot of times when you guys are like, damn, Bear, you seem a little pissy today. Yeah, because we just rescued a 5-year-old who was being serially raped, and I really don't care what kind of pistol you want to talk about today. I don't care. Right? Oh, did you see the Queen died? Yeah, I saw that. But I got a 7-year-old who was being passed around that we've got to restore, so forgive me if I don't care too much. Right? And so I realize that this is a significant pivot from where we were to where we are. And I'm okay with that. We still talk about faith and preparedness and homesteading and current events at this channel. A lot of what's taken place on the other side of the camera now is far different. It looks far different in my life than it did even a year ago. And I'm okay with that. And I really, really appreciate y'all supporting us in this journey, because we would be dead in the water without you. So, thanks. Y'all have a blessed day. I love y'all. Shalom.